Hey guys, welcome back to Ancestral and Healing. Today we are going to be talking about something that is very dear to me, and it is the importance of eating organ meats, the importance of eating nose to tail, the importance of eating every part of the animal. In general, our cultures have become so far removed from the innate intelligence of our bodies and from the wise food traditions that our ancestors knew to be true. I have been reading Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston A for the last few months. I'm a little bit slow with it just because, life, about halfway done, but it is a fascinating book and I've learned so much, so I figured I'd do a little video on the importance of organ meats and share a little bit of information, some tidbits that I've learned in this book with you guys. If you haven't heard about Weston A. Google that man. He's a legend and we should be learning about him in school. I definitely feel like he is a hero. But basically, in the early 1920s, 1930s, Weston A. he was a dentist and he went around all over the world and studied tribes that had not been touched by modern civilization. And what he found was astounding. Whether these tribes were from Africa, Australia, Europe, they all shared something in common. Their diets consisted of foods that were rich in fat, rich in cholesterol, and minerals, providing at least 4 times the mineral content and 10 times the fat-soluble vitamins from animal foods. They knew instinctively that these fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A and D, were vital to health. They felt this all across the board. They knew that without these fat-soluble vitamins, A and D, we cannot absorb minerals and utilize proteins. But what's super cool is Dr. Weston A. discovered an additional fat-soluble nutrient, which he called Activator X. Activator X can be found in fish liver, shellfish, organ meats, and butter that comes from cows grazing on grass. All healthy primitive groups had a source of Activator X, which is now thought to be vitamin K2. There's many studies out there that show that these fat-soluble vitamins like K2, vitamin A, vitamin D protect us against diseases like cancer, diseases like heart disease. So that's just a really short summary of Dr. Weston A. work. But for the rest of the video, I'm going to talk to you guys about why is it so important that we eat organ meats? Are they really as nutrient dense as everyone says they are? And when I say nutrient dense, what do I mean by that? I mean that they're full of nutrients that our body actually absorbs. They're 100% bioavailable, nutrient dense food. So don't mind me if I look over here, I'm taking some notes because I have a really hard time with memorizing things, but I've written down some examples of organ meats and offals. I think that's how you say it. So we've got sweetbreads, which includes the thymus and the pancreas, tongue, bone marrow, skin, tail, blood, which we see a lot in Argentinian blood sausages and blood pudding. Some of the most common organ meats are liver, kidney, heart, spleen, ovaries, brain, testicles. That's one that we haven't tried yet, but I see Paul Saladino eating that on the daily. We've got tripe, feet, like chicken feet, for example. So what exactly is in these organ meats and why are they so good for us? Well, after, 3 years of eating this way, and I'm always looking into the information, I think the answer to that question is what's not in organ meats, because they contain almost everything that we need. They're so essential and vital for our health. So they have a high concentration of vitamin A, a high concentration of all the B vitamins, specifically vitamin B12. You have vitamin C, D, E, and K. And then you also have essential minerals like iron, calcium, a good amount of copper, magnesium, selenium, phosphorus, potassium, zinc. It really is Mother Nature's multivitamin. It is all natural. Our body knows it, it recognizes it. It's actually calling for it. I grew up eating the most common organ, which is liver. I would eat it all the time. My grandma and my mom and my dad, they would cook it for me all the time. So I really liked it, but I didn't really dive into the other organ meats until about 3 years ago when I stumbled upon the carnivore diet and started looking up and finding out how important it is that we consume a nose to tail diet. It is really important, however, to diversify when it comes to eating organ meats because they all each have their own different benefits. So for example, when you eat heart, let's say beef heart, which contains really high amounts of coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 is vital for energy production. It's good to prevent oxidative stress, which we are all exposed to. And of course, not surprisingly, it's good for cardiovascular health. Spleen is really high in vitamin C. Spleen also has folate. Folate plays a key role in making and repairing DNA and producing red blood cells. Most organ meats have folate, but each of them contain more or less than the other. So that's why it's so important to diversify, nose to tail, nothing goes to waste. Organ meats also have some of the highest concentrations of naturally occurring vitamin D. So, instead of taking vitamin D supplements, forget about those. Just eat your organ meats. And this is especially important for people who live in parts of the world where you do not get a lot of sun during certain times of the year. What do? You don't want to be vitamin D deficient. Vitamin D is so crucial for our health. So what do? You get it from the food, directly from the food. Very, very important point. So very important, how do you source organ meats? My number one tip would be to always try to source it from a grass-fed, grass-finished, regenerative farm, if you can. So you can do that by simply looking online on Google, and let's say you live in, what's a good example? Let's say you live in Idaho. I don't know, just an example. Grass-fed, grass-finished farm, Idaho. Just type that in Google, and then you can find out if they're a farm that practices that has regenerative practices. Another great idea is to look into your local farmers market and attend them and go and talk to your farmers. Depending on where you are in the world, you're going to have access to different organ meat cuts. In some places, you won't have access to brain. Like for example, in Canada, can't really get brain because of mad cow disease. When I was there, I could find brain, but only at halal butcher shops. So it all depends on where you're living. Another good idea is to join cow shares. Sometimes farmers can't sell specific organs in the open market, but when you are part of a cow share, they can sell it to you. So that's my video for today, but I want to leave you with a really beautiful quote that I read online. And it goes something like this. When you consume traditional foods, the body remembers, it knows, it wants to bask in the nourishing glow of that food. So just remember, guys, we've been eating this way for thousands of years. Our ancestors knew what they were doing, and we know it too. We just really, really got to try hard to remember and put ourselves out there and just eat nose to tail. Thanks for watching, you guys. I hope you found some good value in this video. Let me know what your thoughts are if you liked it, and I hope that you enjoy the other two videos on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.